Hello there everyone, it's Valmore. Welcome back to my kitchen for another recipe from the Heroesfeast cookbook. Today I'm making a recipe that again comes from the halfling love of cheese. This is going to be a cheese fondue that would be on the table during dinner time. This is community cheeses, so let's get started. So I'm going to be making my fondue using Emmental and Gruyere cheese. I'm going to be crushing some garlic for seasoning. So for the dippers for this, you can really add whatever you like. You can add fruit like apple and pear. You can add vegetables like cauliflower. You can fry up some potatoes to dip in it. And you can add some breads like a nice crunchy French bread or a toasted raisin bread. So to start, I'm going to put the wine in the pot and I'm going to put in the crushed garlic and I'm going to let that come to a simmer. Also, while waiting for that to simmer, I'm going to blanch the cauliflower by putting it into boiling water for about 5 minutes or so. Now that this is simmering, I'm going to remove the garlic and add in the cornstarch and wine mixture. And now I'm going to mix in my cheese mixture just a little bit at a time. Let it melt and then continue until I've put in all the cheese. Now that that's warmed up, I'm going to add brandy, some pepper, and some salt. And just mix that in. So over these episodes, you've probably heard me talk about the meal plan of the halflings. And that's because with their love of food, halflings sometimes eat 6 or 7 meals a day. With the premise for this coming from the Lord of the Rings, I'm sure you're aware, either through the movie itself or through the memes, the scene in the first Lord of the Rings movie where they're sitting down for breakfast and Aragorn scorns them for it because they've already had breakfast. And that's when Pippin lists off the meals of the hobbits. Breakfast, second breakfast, elevensies, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper. But according to the books, there was only 6 meals. That's probably because dinner and supper were considered the same thing. There's breakfast and second breakfast. And while what happens in these could be very easily be interchangeable, it was most likely that first breakfast was a meal composed of fruits and breads and coffee, something quick to get the day started while you wait for the fire to heat up or the stove to heat up to make second breakfast. And second breakfast was probably a little heartier. That's probably where you would get the eggs and the sausages and the other breakfast meats and more bread and more tea and more coffee. Elevensies would have been morning tea time. Teas and coffees and biscuits and breads with jams. Following that would come lunch. And it would be another hearty meal with more meats and breads and cheeses, sandwiches and other things that even you and I might expect to see. Maybe this is where the first drink of beer comes in for the day, or more tea and coffee. An afternoon tea would very usually be a social meal. You might invite other halflings over for tea, or you might go somewhere else for tea, but it's going to be about the same each time. Obviously there's going to be tea, maybe some coffee, as well as finger foods. Little sandwiches, more fruits, some vegetables, cookies or biscuits or scones, anything you might want to dip into tea. And then we come to the 6th and 7th meals, dinner and supper. And my thought on this is that dinner just goes into supper. They're the same meal, there's not really a break between, because dinner could be upwards of 10 courses. And as well as these 10 courses, especially if you were hosting another family or having an event, there would be certain things that were on the table throughout the whole meal. This community cheeses would be one of them. And this being the biggest meal, you would expect the biggest fanfare, the roasted chickens, the potatoes, all the vegetables, pies and cakes and more cookies. Now, as for the cheese itself, it's delicious. What do you expect me to say? If you've watched enough videos, you know I love cheese. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. I love cheese. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's melty, it's creamy. Utilizing these Swiss-type cheeses, it's a nice, mild, and slightly nutty flavor. And the spread I made with it, it goes great with any of it. The pears, the apples, the raisin bread was wonderful, the regular bread obviously. Whatever you might put in cheese, this is going to go great with it. I hope you enjoy it. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at chef_Valmore. The links are in the description below. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and come on back next week for another recipe.